Hi, this is Jackie Wright with Wright Enterprises Community Spotlight, San Francisco, Dallas. And I just want to welcome you here. We're emanating from the African-American Arts and Culture Complex and actually in the Burial Clay Memorial Theater. And this is a new show, as you know, and I have to commend the producers, Ken Johnson and also Will Hammond, for bringing us together from this wonderful location. And I get to talk to some wonderful people like Sherri Young, who is the founder and executive director of the African-American Shakespeare Company. Sherri, welcome.
Thank you.
It is so great. Finally, we have known each other for years, and just to sit down and talk to you, I just cannot really say how overwhelmingly wonderful this moment is for me, because I know I'm going to find out things that I never knew all these years.
Yes. Well, you doing this is really a testament to arts and community, so I'm glad that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so wonderful because there's so many stories that need to be told. And I just want to go back a little bit of an origin piece with you.
Here we go.
No, I'm not going to shade the details or anything. I want to hear from you.
Okay.
You grew up in San Francisco.
Yes.
And just want to know, growing up in San Francisco, how did that impact you and your decision to do the great work that you've done all these years? 30 years?
Right, 30 years.
With the Shakespeare, African-American Shakespeare
San Francisco was like a cultural icon, and there were so many different programs. And I always gravitated towards the arts. I was like going to park and rec centers to take tap dance. I had a ballet class when I was a kid. And I learned about this building used to be called the Western Addition Cultural Center back in the 70s. And I learned about it because they had a costume rental place. And I was excited. I don't know why I was excited at the age of 10 or 12. It's like, I'm going to rent costumes. But I didn't have any reason to rent a costume. But I remember finding this building. I live in the Excelsior district, and this is the other side of town. But finding this building, and it was closed or not operating, but I was just so excited to learn of this building. And now it's
flourishing.
Well, years later, here we were like being cultivated in this building, my organization, African-American Shakespeare. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, how long of the 30 years have you actually been in this physical location?
I think we moved in when the organization was like 5 or 7 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, for the first 5 or 7 years, we were bouncing from place to place. We did something at they used to call it the Alice Art Center in Oakland. Now it's called the Malanga Center. We were at Mills College. We were at New Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. We found places to do shows haphazardly, but when we were invited to come here, that's when we were actually putting down roots and we were able to grow.
Now, in terms of your actually starting the African-American Shakespeare Company, I believe, if I read correctly, that you had some experience with the American Conservatory Theater. And I just want to know how that experience basically was the impetus for you to create your company.
So, yeah, I mean, it was a great and bittersweet experience. Back then, it was in the 90s. We're now in the 90s. I'm in my early 20s. I just graduated from college, so I must have been about 21, 22 years old.
Very young.
Very young, very impressionable. But I noticed that you're getting great acting training, but they were giving you classics, Chekhov, Ibsen, Shakespeare. And then once in a while, they'll do a black production for the 3 or 4 black students out of a group of 36. And I kind of thought that was, well, I have to stretch myself. How come these white folks don't have to stretch themselves, So,
what a concept.
What a concept. But, the reality was that I would be cast in a black production way before I would be in any of these other things that I was learning. And I went to Cal Shakes because we're always giving free tickets as students. And I was watching King Lear, and I was the only chocolate chip in the audience, you know. The few and far between in the whole audience. Yes.
And we're talking what, at least 100, 200 people?
It's
or
like
more?
300 seats out there, yes,
Okay.
and in the outside.
Talk about representing.
Yeah. I wasn't even trying to represent. But you know, every time I ask family members, like, I got tickets, you want to go? They're like, no, thank you. So I was watching King Lear, and the king, big speech, and he like fell down, and no one reacted. Everybody on the stage was just standing stoic. And I said, what kind of BS is this?
Yeah.
In our culture, if the king, the deacon, the patriarch fell to his knees, we'd be looking at each other, and maybe somebody's helping them up, and it's just like
helping.
There was lack of truth. And I'm like, no wonder why my community doesn't like Shakespeare, because it doesn't ring authentic and true.
No emotion.
No emotion.
I mean, there's
no
always
reality-based.
Yeah, there's something very dramatic happen, but then you're not reacting to it.
Yes.
And especially coming from a community like ours, when we go to the movies,
very vocal.
and you're talking back, it's like, girl, take those high heels off and run.
Yeah.
You know, those kinds of things that
you
you speak back to the
So it was a
screen.
lack of that. And at that time, the theater industry was wrangling with, like, there's too many white people in the theater industry. Let's do colorblind casting. So we'll put people of different color and ethnicities on the stage, but we're going to pretend that we don't notice that, and it's still a very European story. And I said, why does it have to be colorblind?
Yes.
Let it be colorful. Let it, like, add the ethnicity and the cultural experience in these stories, because I love a good story. You know, Romeo and Juliet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, I love me a good story. And if you tell it into a way that other people see themselves and are a part of that story, it's something that's for everyone. So I said, I went back to ACT. I met with the co-dean of the conservatory program, Benny Ambush, and I said, Benny, where is there a Black Shakespeare Company? Because I want to know where I can audition, and I want to be a part of it, and I haven't been able to find it. This was when we had yellow pages back in the day. And Benny said, Sherri, these young people, they don't know what yellow pages are.
Let your fingers do the walking, was there?
You have to be a certain age to know that. Yeah. But back in the day, there was no internet. You had a book this thick from different states and cities, and you can look up business and numbers, and that was the old-fashioned way. But Benny said, there isn't one, so why don't you just start your own?
Wow.
And he didn't know what he put into my head. I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
So he just flippantly said that.
Yes.
And 30 years later,
yes,
here you are, and you have impacted the lives of so many young people. And you have impacted the space around, the arts. And I loved what you said about don't be colorblind, but be colorful.
Yes.
Wow. And so that's been what you've been doing all these years.
How can us and our lived experience enhance the story with our culture? And, you were sharing with me some of the history down memory lane. We did Oedipus, and we set it in an African village. Okay. And we had a griot storyteller. And there's dance and music. And it was like, that was like one of the best shows we did. And A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is Shakespeare, we set in Trinidad and Tobago, because it's about mystical and fairies and things happening, and the carnival in Trinidad and Tobago kind of lends to that grandioso concept, and it was just so fun, so beautiful. If I had bigger budgets, I could do so much more.
Yes, yes. And speaking of, I'm not going to get into budgetary things.
Oh, okay.
Just about yet. But You did mention the various plays, and also in our pre-taping conversation, you mentioned about Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
One of our audience members had mentioned that she had seen it, Kumba, being with us, and she had seen it, and hopefully we can have Kumba on to talk about her school and the various work she's doing too.
Absolutely.
But she was just saying how impressionable the Romeo and Juliet done from the space of the African-American community was for her. So.
Well, that was really special because normally Romeo and Juliet is played by adult actors who are in their 20s or mid-20s or maybe even 30s. But having high school students at the age of 14, 15, and 16 play these like magnanimous roles, you know, it was an undertaking, and it was very age appropriate, and it was an experience for the audience and the actors themselves. I was sharing with Kumba and you that I forgot that this was the first time these young people had to kiss on stage, and how embarrassing they felt. And there's one scene where in the play, there's an implication of them consummating their marriage after they get married to the friar. And I remember we had the parents come to rehearsals because we didn't want.
Yes, exactly.
This was before they have intimacy directors now. So we had the parents come, and there was a scene where the two kids are lying down in a makeshift bed, and they just come up from the covers, and it's the implication of they've consummated the marriage. And one of the young boys, you know, the parent was concerned. They're like, instead of them coming up from the covers, why don't you just have the cover wrapped around them? And the young boy said something to the effect of, like, why are we coming up from the covers? I don't know what's happening.
Such innocent.
That was so innocent.
Versions.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness.
I'm sure the parents proud to hear that, like, ooh, okay, all right, this kid has not.
Exactly. He doesn't even
He didn't know what was happening, right?
and that's really, I guess that's the other thing. You know, there's just so much in what you just said and describing that, because, you know, a lot of times Romeo and Juliet and high school sometimes, so they were in a professional environment, and the demands were different because, you know, people were paying, you know, top dollar to come in to see them, and to have your whole psyche impacted, because you don't know what it's like, what it's the reason you come up from the bed, you know, the growth. And so with that, I guess when you're dealing with the arts, and you're dealing with you know, productions and everything, you have individuals that you have to work through and with. How challenging is that to keep things rolling, to keep things accomplished, when you're dealing with such variations from
challenges and barriers,
you know, from a virgin, you know, Romeo, you know, and usually Romeo is all romantic and everything.
Romantic, yes.
So
I mean, each show is like a small nuclear family, and each show is different with experiences. I'm sure over our 30 years, I can go back to each production, and everyone has a different experience or a different, like, family, but there's that bond that you make, you know. Whether the show is great and successful or there are challenges behind the scenes, that really bonds the actors, the artists, everybody who was involved, in a way that it's family. And you know, some of the actors have been with us for a number of years, some have moved on, some have come back. And it's a real accomplishment for what we've done, and how I believe we've supported a number of people who never knew that they wanted to be actors, and yet they found themselves in our company, and then they go off and work with, like, Berkeley Rep and other places, and it was just a
impacted their
happenstance.
lives.
Yes.
Impact their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it just kind of reminds me of the old arts group from New York, if I can remember the name, the African-American, or no, Negro Ensemble
Theater, yes.
Theater, where you had Ruby Dee, Ozzie Davis,
Yes.
and just, you know, Sidney Poitier, you know, and just all of these wonderful actors and things like that, where it was rooted in a lot of it was basically community, you know, Harry Belafonte and all of those
People
careers
don't
that
realize
came
that
big.
black theaters supported black artists because they took a chance. You know, larger institutions would only bring them in for a one-stop deal or a whatever, but they weren't taking the chance of them giving like time to grow and develop. And at that time, you know, the black community, being an actor, even in the 70s, was a risk. You know, that's something that you weren't encouraging, you know, your folks and family and kin folks to go into. But it's something that people were gravitated towards, who have talent, who were encouraged, and it's normally done in the black theaters. So.
Yes, and as a black theater, you know, you say black theater, but the reality is it's multicultural, because don't you have lighting designers, different maybe guest playwrights, and different ones that are not necessarily, you know, black.
Right. You could have anyone help support that institution. So, and we don't discriminate at all, but we do recognize that there's a lot of people who are getting their first chance or experience, and we want to help support that. They might not have that same opportunity in what I call some of the mainstream. I won't call them majority, because you know, the black and brown people are the global majority right now.
Exactly.
But yeah, you need somewhere and some place to develop your craft and talent.
Now, you've been around for 30 years, and I must applaud you because that is almost generational.
Yes.
When you think about that number. So many people that have come through, that have grown and everything. And with that, is there a celebration that's going to be happening soon? Can we talk about that? I want to talk about some other little artsy things.
On October the 4th, we're doing an outdoor celebration that's going to be in the Hayes Valley area.
Wow.
They have blocked off the streets, and we're going to have a presentation and a timeline, memory lane, where you can see some of visuals and history of the company. We're inviting all of our artists from over the 30 years to come and join us. Some will be performing on the stage. We want our board of directors from every iteration of the organization to come. You know, so it's really like a party and a festival that we're having, just to kind of signify. Now, our 30th anniversary officially is on September the 28th.
Okay.
But we didn't choose that date because the Folsom Street Fair is in San Francisco, and if you know anything about the Folsom Street Fair, that they lock it down, and and it is a sight to see. So, but we did not want to compete. And they have their fair, they start their fair early on, so we're doing ours a week later.
I know, San Francisco, I have always said that it's either a party, a festival, or a protest.
Right.
You know, that's our city.
Yes.
In a nutshell. So it's going to be October 4th, and
Yes.
what's the time frame again?
Right now, we're scheduling it from 11 to 5 p.m. But I think I'm going to look at what our funding is and see if we could extend that to 11 to 9 p.m. Just because I think it'll be fun having some evening events planned out,
Definitely.
you know, some night lights and things like that. And, you know, maybe have more of a DJ, do the performances in the midday, but at nighttime it's like adult time, DJ
Party.
and cocktails. That's right. That's right. So,
Festival earlier in the day.
yes,
And then party at night.
Yes.
And there will be no protest about this, because this is really something wonderful. You know, you did bring up, earlier I mentioned that word budget, and you were just saying if you found the budgeting.
Yes.
Gotta ask you, with the things that are happening in our nation since January 20th, how has the budget been impacted, or do you have some experiences?
Even before January 20th happened, we know there was political shifts that was happening just before the election. So like that September, October, the political shifts were already shifting. And the former mayor, London Breed, did a wonderful thing about having the Dream Keepers. If this is ever seen 20 or 30 years from now, this interview, there was a whole Black Lives Matter and a reckoning that America had, and money was redirected for the Black communities to do programming and projects that supported the Black communities and others. So Mayor London Breed was committed of giving $120 million over a course of 2 to 4 years to the Black community, and we were one of the recipients. But that was politicized when her reelection came up.
Okay.
And she was a target of the opposition finding different ways to dissuade that program had any value, and to highlight all of the challenges or other things that were going on behind the scene in a way that funding was rescinded, not only for our organization, but 14 other Black institutions.
Wow.
So, I mean,
the tide changes with the administration, and definitely I would like to give kudos to Mayor Breed at the time that had the vision to impact, and it wasn't giving money it was investing.
It was investing.
See, that's the key, investing in the investment that's going on. So currently with that happening, and with some of the decisions that have happened, you know, we saw what happened with the Kennedy, you know, the Kennedy Awards and all of that, and the center,
the National Endowment for the Arts, that was affected by the current administration. I don't want to even say the name. You know, it's like Voldemort. So,
I understand. So with that, all the more reason for our community to really support your organization and organizations like the Lorraine Hansberry Theater, Afro Solo, and so many of the grassroots organizations that have given with so little and have done so much now. And so how can people, you know, write that check, or, you know, volunteering? We like that volunteering a lot, but we also want, I guess, write that check. You know,
donations are always welcome.
Patron of the arts.
Yes, patron of the arts. They should go to our website, African-American Shakes with the S at the end, .org. You can also Google us. Sometimes people use Black Shakespeare and we'll pop up. But that is the best way to go to our website, see the events are upcoming, there's a donation page, and other information about how you can get involved.
That is really, really great. You know, I guess in terms of, you know, being around for 30 years, you had the vision of investing in your own community. What are some of the next steps do you see for the organization?
Well, I think the next steps, we have a very good, solid foundation with staff. I think, you know, I need to have a deputy, because sometimes when our Black founders or leaders go off to retire or what have you, the organization lose their footing, and it takes a long time for that institutional information to come back up to speed. And we suffer the most because we don't have those succession plans in order. So I saw what happened to Stanley and Quentin of Lorraine Hansberry.
Oh my goodness.
I know, that's another tale you have to share with the audience. But having that kind of plan to help keep it going, but also elevating, because the next 30 years should be done by someone else.
Yeah, with all that growth that occurs, and in the
Right.
case of the Lori Hansberry Theater, within months of each other, they were, the artistic director and the executive director
yes.
had left us, and such value.
Yes.
And everything. So, and it's so great that you're thinking along those lines
yes.
for the next iteration
There's
for
a
your
lot of
organization.
sacrifices that one does to start a company. And then for the thing that I keep thinking, that some other founders, they want to hold on, but I'm like, no, it's better to teach people and let them have their failures and their moments, because it'll be horrible if this organization just died because I'm not with it anymore.
And having to recreate and everything, and just investment of communities. And with that word, investment of communities, I just want to talk a little bit about this coffee we have from Talio's.
Yes.
And Talio's, since our inception, we have been sharing information about them. They have this particular dark roast that's called the Bayview. They basically have these wonderful coffees and teas that are named after underserved communities in San Francisco, and I think elsewhere too. So we're going to have to actually have the owner, Alton Rents, to come and talk. But wonderful coffee, and what's so beautiful is that this coffee is provided for people in the lobby. It's a cafe now, and so that when people come in and become our guests here, they have an opportunity to have a cup of coffee, come in, enjoy the show, and hear about wonderful organizations like yours, Sherri. I cannot thank you enough for being here. I just almost want to, just tear up a little bit, because you've done so much work, and this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Of what you are doing. So congratulations to you. Any last comments as we end?
I don't have any last comments, but thank you for your production team and for you doing this, because you're capturing all of these great institutions and individuals, and I met a few of them as they came and went, so you have a treasure trove of wonderful people who should be captured.
And we thank you for joining us, and join us again here at the African-American Art and Complex Center. My name is Jackie Wright, and that is it for us for Wright Enterprises Community Spotlight, San Francisco and Dallas. Thank you very much.
I like doing fake talkers.
Well, we can actually, talk.
Right.
But,